Aloha, aloha kako.
Aloha.
O Norma Ryūkō Kawelokū Wong ko'uinoa. Ua hana o ia au ma kalihi mauka ma oahune. Noho wau ma'ane i keia manawa. Aloha, my name is Norma Ryūkō Kawelokū Wong. I was born in Kalihi near the mountains, where I now live. Mr. Chairman, I apologize for not being with you in person. Instead, I am here in Kalihi, and from time to time, you will have proof of that because you will hear roosters in the background. My grandmother was banned from the language in her youth, and she did not speak it again until 2 weeks before she passed. She did not tell us her story, and I did not grow up in the language. And so these few words that I have spoken here that I wrote in my formal testimony, I sent to younger Hawaiians to correct, younger Hawaiians who benefited from my generation's political fight for language revitalization here in Hawaii. I know that my story is common among the many Native peoples. We all experienced forced norming, the stripping of language and ways, separation from land, family, and peoples. And the boarding schools were focused delivery agents for this national policy and for the peoples who lived and governed in this country at those moments in time. And so for their descendants, there is very specific pain. To account for and acknowledge is a consequential precipice. And how will we guide and participate in this particular moment? In my introduction, the reconnection to language just 3 generations later is one small example of mending the arc, the 7 generations arc, the 7 generations that are before us and the 7 generations after. This is the worldview, the ethos, and the plumb line for all Indigenous peoples. At the center of the arc is the current generation. All the peoples, whether you are Native peoples or not, who live in this particular moment. And what is our kuleana, our responsibility to mend the arc and to pivot the trajectory for future generations? So while justice is moral, it is a hollow victory if it is not accompanied by thriving. So moving forward from the investigative report, it is critical to reach back and to cast forward. How do past actions impact us today? What is the imagined and hoped for future? What would need to happen to make that possible? To mend the arc is to contemporaneously restore that which was cut off, not as a reparation, but in reconnecting to a fruitful path. And 3 areas of repair come to mind: language revitalization, connection of people to place, and worthiness. Language contains values and ways. It must be taught orally and reconnects the relationship between generations. Language contains the wisdom of stewardship between peoples and the land, and reconnecting to the responsibilities of land and place, even in urban areas. This is critical to the reconnection of the arc. Indigenous peoples are intended to be stewards of peoples and place, not only their own, but of the entirety. And it is part of our worthiness across the span of time. In mending the arc, we must interrupt the habit of transactional repair. In its stead, to be creative and generous in our investment and partnership. Resources will be needed for grieving and therapeutic healing and gatherings. The energy of what happened in these spaces and places needs tending to if repair is to be had. Ritual, ceremony, repurposing. That is the Indigenous way, and making it possible for peoples at scale to have the time, the space, and the support to figure this out and to implement hopes and dreams. This is a generational journey. It is not a one and done. E nā ika opua o ka aina, observing the horizon clouds of the land. What took hundreds of years to tear to the point of breaking cannot be repaired, let alone propel us toward a more thriving future over the course of a few studies, reports, and hearings. There is work to be done, and it can be fruitful. I leave with this wise saying of our peoples, Kale haule ole, he keki. One's child, a garland that is never cast aside. Mahalo nui. Thank you so much.
Mahalo. We now recognize Ms. Medicine Crow.